New videos every day.
This is Athena Jezik, and we're gonna do a face massage, which is the muscle work instead of the lymphatic work. Just previously we just did some lymph work, and if you do lymph work before you do muscle work, what you're gonna find is that the muscle has a different quality to it. Partly is because there's fluids that are flowing in it, and it's usually a softer quality. That's usually what you find. The muscles will feel softer when there's a lot of fluidity in them. And I'm using a very light, small amount of lotion. This is some kind of lotion that was made locally. It's a very soft, light lotion, and I don't like to use a whole lot on the face, but enough to give it enough slip so that you have a little bit of a slippery viscosity. I don't want it to be too sticky, or it will stretch the skin in ways and kind of cause a little bit of stress on the tissues of the skin and the face. They're very delicate. They take a lot of abuse being in the wind and in the sun and all that. So okay, so to start with how I do this, and this is just my own routine, is I usually start under the chin and pull things upward. Now there's just some attachments along the chin, so you can just run along that bone. The lymph vessels are a little more behind the bone or under it, however you kind of do that, where you're in the dip behind it there. That's where the lymph vessels are, and some attachments. But you just want to maybe just pull your fingers along there. You can tell a lot what's going on back to the jawline, being very careful because there is that water wheel there. You don't want to apply a lot of pressure. And the chin can come like around, and maybe a little circular motions. Just anything that you think would feel good. There's really not any right or wrong way to make a routine, but I do think that if you are making a routine up, you do want to make sure that you're moving from one muscle group to another muscle group with ease, so that it's comfortable for the person and feels like it has some kind of flow and continuity to it. So you can bring it up to there, bring it up to the top of the face, and start with the forehead. Sometimes I start with the forehead, sometimes I start with the chin. It just depends on, I guess, maybe my mood, or sometimes what's going on with the person. So we'll work that. You can work a little bit along the eyebrow, even doing a little bit of picking up the eyebrow and rotating around a little bit. It's not really pinching the skin, but lifting it up and giving it a little bit of movement. Being careful of the eye. It's right on the edge of the socket. Same with the other eyebrow. And then underneath the eye, you can do a similar thing. Pick it up. It's a little more difficult to do there because it's not quite as loose. But you can do little circular motions and pick it up a little bit and just work it real gentle. I'm getting into some of these muscles here in the jaw that open and close the mouth, grind the teeth. You can always tell how much a person has intention by what goes on at this area of the jaw. These muscles can be very, very tight on some people. Some people carry a lot of stress in their jaw. And they do get in a pattern where there's a lot of maybe grinding when you sleep. And then working into the deeper hollow here of underneath the cheekbone. When I do cranial sacral work and I'm working inside of the mouth with the cranial work, I get underneath these zygomatic arch and actually have a hold. I'll do this superficially rather than inside, because it works. It's a little modification and it works pretty well, but when you hook your finger kind of underneath the zygomatic arch And just hold a little pressure where you're doing that donkey kind of thing where you're just riding into it, waiting for it. It'll begin to open up. And then as it opens up, then you can keep following it in. It'll open up and invite you in, so you can get yourself in, but you want to just hold it, not force yourself in. You don't want to go so hard that you're going to leave bruises on anybody's face, but you want to give it a relaxed feeling. Get some circulation in it. And of course, since the lymph has been moving, it's always easier to get inside of a muscle when the fluid is moving, when there is the fluidity. When there's a more static muscle in the quality of it, it's much harder to work. And it's much more painful to work, actually, for the person getting it worked. Now here I'm moving a little farther up into that cheekbone. I'm following the line of the bone here. And I'm just waiting for these muscle attachments to relax. And they're unwinding really nicely. And then we can just pull that upward. Okay. There's really not a whole lot to do on the face. It's getting into the neck. It's always a nice part of the face as well. It's checking the rotation. Now, if you want to get into some of the massaging of the neck, of these muscles, I'll show you a little bit there, because it does tie in nicely with working the face. And a little bit more of this lotion on up the sternocleidomastoid, and a little bit around here. Okay, picking the neck up, you can turn it to the side and then take the thumb and just draw it along the edge of the trapezius. Now here I'm using a little bit more pressure than what I have, for, of course, for lymph or for the face massage, but I'm still not digging in real deep. I'm letting the muscle pretty much let me know what's the proper depth to go, and I'm just respecting that. And then along the sternocleidomastoid, which is the front muscle here. Take that. There's other musculature. There's a lot of stuff going on in the neck, so you always want to be real careful. And the same thing on this other side, which you probably won't be able to see because of the camera angle, but it's the same. And then rotating the head. What I like to do, this is something that people really enjoy, is start with your fingers deep down in, and you're right along the vertebrae, and as you turn the head, slide the fingers up. It gives a really nice stretch with a little bit of lengthening of the muscle. And you, the therapist, can feel where there's tension, and sometimes you can feel if there's a little anomaly in the bone. And then, of course, the occipital base is an important one to get right along the skull. Get a nice deep kind of, not, well, deep like on the jaw, as far as the muscles will take you in. It's a little deeper than the jaw work, but there you want to be on the edge of that, like the jaw. And wait for the attachments to let go and release and soften. But you are going to be a little deeper than with the jaw, because you're a little bit behind the occiput. You don't want to be directly on it, but dropping below and behind it. Makes sense. Right along the edge of the bone. And then there's also some work at the front along the trachea area, where you can do a little bit of stretching. Some of this is a little combination of lymph, and this is very delicate work here, but you can open that up with a little muscle work. You just want to be real careful. Think about what feels good for you, and then that's how you can tell what you should do on the person that you're working with. And the other thing, which is a cranial piece, is just holding onto the hyoid bone, because that sometimes gets a little displaced and it is held with muscles. So when it gets softened and the muscles are more relaxed, oftentimes you can feel quite a shift of the hyoid bone. This is done by just placing the fingers very, very lightly on the edges of it. It's a kind of a U-shaped bone, so you're down on that U part. It comes around like this, so you're down on the ends of it, the top of the U, only it's not upward like a U. And you can feel little maneuvers, little twists, little bumps, little pops, little waves, and that's the bone just resituating itself with the different muscles that are holding on to it. Since the muscles are relaxing, they're going into some different positioning. Now, the hyoid bone does play a part in neck and shoulder issues to some degree, either directly or indirectly. So it's a bone that's needing a little attention when you're working on someone's neck injuries, that kind of thing. Okay, that's about all for the face massage and little hints that I may not have touched on before. Thank you very much. This is Athena Jezik.